Welcome back once more time. We are Boss Babes Healing, where we are loving on each other by healing, and I can't wait. I'm so excited to get into this week's episode where we are talking about spiritual finances. Stay tuned. Welcome back once again. I thank you for coming back again, for hanging out with your girl, coming back for some gems and some more tools that we can use in our everyday life and our business and at home. And we're coming together and doing that by putting God first in all that we do and by staying aware and being intentional. And in this season, we are pulling up roots. All 2025, we are pulling up roots. We are seeing what is the core root of the problem. Where does this stem from? Why do we do the things that we do or say or go the places we go and not have the outcomes that we actually desire and are looking for? And so in the heart of God, finances is a huge question. It's a huge problem. It's a huge topic for the kingdom. Some finances is something that we should all have. We should be in control of. We should be building and having enough so that we can help others in certain areas. Um, Finances starts from a certain place, and so that is the nature of what we're going to talk about this evening. We are going to dive into where do our finances come from? Who is our help? Where are we getting what it is we need for our everyday life, for so that we can build, so that we can be better people, and how we can be positioned in the kingdom. We can pour when we need to. And so what does that look like mentally? And what does that look like for you? What does that look like for your children? What does that look like for this next generation coming up? What does that look like for people when we have people in certain positions that are firing everyone, that are quickly shifting atmospheres financially and closing down businesses and opening up this thing and that thing, and coming in with these ideas that sound astronomical and out of mind, out of pocket. $5 million for a gold card to come here and stay here. I don't know about that one. I mean, I do, but you know, why would a person want to put that kind of money into being here when they have that kind of money where they are? They are already established. They are already on a certain level in order to even have that amount of money. So why would they want to use that to come to a place that seems to be depreciating when it comes to finances, when it comes to building? It seems like there are a certain amount of people, a certain amount of numbers that are trying to stick their hands in everything so that they can have control, and they're making, you know, us or United, it's not us. I won't put myself in it. United States look like a business. And in a lot of ways it is a corporation. Absolutely. It is. That is what it functions like. But it's like they're trying to just blatantly be cold and just shut things down and open things up and change the way people know life, and kind of like flipping it on its head really quickly, you know? And so it's very important that us as men and women of God, that we have our finances in order, that we have our, our paperwork and how we're operating, and, who we're uh, doing business with and how we're doing business. It's very important that we have a structure. It's very important that we have, the right people that are accompanying us, or that are attached to us, or that are attached to what it is we're building, what it is we're doing. And we're not just going along every day like things are the same, because they're not. There are things that are around us that are crumbling, that are changing, that are being built up, and we have to make sure that we stay abreast to those things. Not that they all have something to do with us, but in some form or fashion they might be able to change the way we do business or change how we perceptualize moving forward. What does it look like for the 501c business going forward? What does it look like for shelters and food pantries and things of that nature? What does it look like for the mom who's been running business at home? What does that look like for her? Does she have to now get up and go out and get a job? That's not a bad thing, but who's staying home with who's watching the kids? And now who's ultimately having that much time with them and raising them and putting certain ideals into their heads, because now they have a position and control with people's children because mom can't be at home with them anymore. And it changes the dynamic of the house. It changes the dynamic of the family and what that even looks like anymore. And so financially, we want to jump into the spiritual side of finances. Our help comes from the Lord. We look to the hills from which cometh our help. The Lord is our shepherd, and we lack no good thing. God upholds us in his righteous right hand, and he never leaves us nor forsakes us. The Bible also states, Psalms 37, when my mother and my father forsake me, then God takes care of me. We want to absolutely lead with what leads us. We want to know that things are already manifested. They're already in this earthly realm for us. And if we come from amongst the world, if we come from out of what the world does and what they're thinking and their systems and how they formulate certain things, we will really be able to see and grasp where our help truly comes from and know that that is where we have to lean. And so we absolutely want to 100% hone in on where we are really and truly taken care of, being taken care of. And so you have to have the mindset that my money and my currency does not come from a job. My currency and what I need comes from God. I had to live like that for a good year to a year and a half. I lived where God let me know I supply your needs. A job doesn't supply your needs. And when you do go for the job, it needs to be one that I gave to you. All of us don't live like that, and that's your business. God has me in a life of surrender. So that's what my life looks like every day. Not like it did back then, but even to this day, my life looks like I've surrendered it over to God. Like, what's keeping her in with balance, what's keeping her where she needs afloat, what's keeping her where she needs overflow, what's keeping her to where she needs this, that, and the third is God's hand. And because that's something that won't move and it can't be moved, that's the way I choose to live, because no one is moving that righteous right hand. They can't. They don't have the strength. No one is built that way to move God's hand. So that is why for me, it is important, and I would absolutely extend that advice to you to make sure that when all your plays in life include God's hand, especially financially. So your finances start out in the spirit realm. Your currency is actually wherever you're consistent. If you're consistently procrastinating, that will become your currency. If you're consistently not saving money, that will become a currency for you. If you're consistently lending money or eating out all the time, or looking good and your pockets are empty, but you look real fly, that becomes a currency, whatever you keep consistent. And so when you are in the word of God, those words is not just another book. Those words become actions. They are life words. If I say I'm the head and not the tail, and I eat that every day, that I'm above and not beneath, that I'm the lender and not the borrower, I start to look like what I'm saying because I'm consistent in it. And those words become my currency because now they're turning into an action. All words from the Bible turn into actions for you. You don't have to take my word for it. Just start reading the word. It's a fact. So if I chew on, swallow, digest, and live every day that I'm above and not beneath, I'm the head and not the tail, I'm first and not last, I'm the lender, not the borrower, my life starts to look like that. Because where I'm consistent at starts to become my currency. And so spiritually, that's where we're starting at. You're starting at with where you're being current. We're starting at where you're being consistent, what you're reading, what you're listening to, because your eyes and your ears and your nose are all portals, and they all take in what it is you're watching and what you're listening to, who you're speaking with, what kind of conversations you're having. When it is you decide to go to sleep, and if you're not resting, why are you up? Are you working? I don't mean a 9-to-5 work. I mean you're putting attention into your content. You're putting attention into a book you're writing. You're putting attention into a journal you're creating. You're putting attention into your children, a homeschool, and you're creating material for them to work from, right? So you being up late at night is not a bad thing. If you're up and your mind is going every way, then that's a problem. You can absolutely message me and we'll pray about that. But you being up late at night and working is not a bad thing. That means that you're willing to put in the time that it takes to get to that goal. And I commend you. Absolutely. I commend you. I give you all of the rounds of applause because you're saying my currency is now being consistent in when and where I will put that extra mile in, that extra work in, that extra time. And so that always gets an applause over here. Okay. Also, spiritually, you want to know that a part of your currency is prayer. Like I said before, your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your mouth are all portals. If you are putting yourself in heavenly divine places, because that's where prayer takes place at, prayer takes place in a certain divine atmosphere. It takes place in a certain divine portal. And just like you having that conversation with Ray, and y'all ain't talking about nothing, that's what you're eating. That's your currency. Imagine speaking with your heavenly Father and you're having heavenly conversations called prayer consistently, and you're putting in fire on your altar. Now you're not just in a divine heavenly portal, the third heaven. Now you are actually fueling something else that's another portal that's heavenly, and that's your altar. And so spiritually, it's all about what you're feeding, what's feeding you. That all becomes a currency. And then once you have developed and mastered where your currency comes from, who your currency comes from, and what it is you do to create that currency, now you're going to add in your faith. Faith is what takes the currency and starts to move the currency. Faith moves currency. Currency comes from what you're eating, drinking, hearing, and acting on, right? As far as reading the word, that becomes action, saying affirmations, praying every day, making sure that you're putting fire on your altar. There are times where it will be altar against altar. You will have attacks or be in a warfare because it is simply a witch or a warlock somewhere else with a hotter altar. She's more consistent than you are. She's not more powerful than you are. She's actually scared of you, because she knows the fire and the power you truly have inside of you if you were just consistent at it, right? So there are actually witches and warlocks that will try to slow down your prayer and slow down you reading the Bible, or make it so you don't do it at all. Now all of a sudden you're heavily tired. Now all of a sudden you're nodding off and snoring, and you're not even a snorer. There's an actual spirit of slumber that gets sent out. There are technologies also that are mind control technologies that they use. There are also prayers that they say against the mind. There are prayers for backwardness, is what they will throw at you, confusion. And when they put those two together for your mind to go backwards, slumber, confusion, all of those three together will put your mind in a certain place. There's also marine spirits. There's an octopus spirit that attaches its tentacles to the top of your head, and it creates brain fog. And if you're a writer, slow down your writing. If you have a flow when you speak, you'll realize that you're forgetting stuff all of a sudden. And you're not creating a flow like you used to do when you would talk. You might have a podcast, or you might have a radio show, or you might just be a speaker, or a preacher. And now you're realizing that your flow is not the same. It's not because you're getting older, because you get stronger as you get older. Your flow gets better as you get older, right? It's because there's an attack. It's because you're in a certain stage of warfare. It's because they've studied you and learned you, and they know what works for you. Your flow works for you. Prayer works for you. Reading the Bible works for you. So they will come in and try and change what your currency is. They know that that's what stabilizes you. That's what gives you balance. They know that that is what makes it so you can do this and do that in your life and have peace about it. They know that when you pray and you're consistent, and when you read your Bible, and when you're on your face, and when you're talking to God, and you're even simply having conversations with him, but they're divine and they're heavenly, they know that that is what gives you balance. That is what gives you an unbotheredness, if you will, about situations that you go through. So when warfare does come, you're prepared because your feet are shod in peace. You're prepared because you have on the helmet of salvation. That helmet of salvation, along with prayer and praise, puts on a helmet to where if a marine spirit was to come, it can't fight against your helmet of salvation. It cannot. When you start to put on the full armor of God, part of the full armor of God a lot of people leave out is prayer. If you're reading Hebrews 11 and you get to the end of the full armor of God, prayer is also a piece of the full armor. So that tells you a lot about you being a speaking being. That tells you a lot about what prayer actually is for and what it does and why they took it out of schools. Because it's currency. It becomes an influence. It gives a child a certain amount of strength. And if you take it away, now the child is under your control, whatever books you give them. Now they eat whatever currency you say they have to have. Now their in tuneness to something spiritual is gone unless they have that at home. So it starts with the mind. It starts with what you are connected to, what you're listening to, what you're ingesting, for you to know what true currency really is. Currency is not paper money. It's not even an electronic transfer. And it's not an invoice is not currency. You can make your invoice look as professional and current and pretty or mature or fancy or professional as you like. That's not the actual currency. That is just the boat, the car, or the transportation that's used to get you the currency to get the currency to you. But the actual currency is what you eat. The actual currency is what you ingest on a consistent basis. So if you're loving hip hop in it, that's your currency, right? which would be a very, very false sense of currency. If you find that entertainment is a large portion of your currency, let me tell you, that's a false sense of currency. That means you're hiding behind your ability to really create currency. You're hiding behind the ability to have actual wealth. God gives us the ability to produce wealth. We produce wealth with what we ingest and what we give out. What we allow to pour into us and what we pour into is also our currency. So if you look at your phone, because I know on a lot of phones, iPhone mainly, it will tell you what your watch time or your screen time was, right? So the goal would be to that screen time to go down. If a lot of your time is you're watching someone else's content, you're watching what someone else created, you're looking for a good kiki, you're looking for something to eat, have a snack to, which is fine. But if it becomes overkill and over the top and every day consistent, that's what you're doing, you're not finding the time that it is that you deserve to start to build and pour into you and to create your currency that it is you need to become what the kingdom needs you to be, what the kingdom is calling you to be. The kingdom in this season is calling a lot of you out and saying, come from amongst them and come into the kingdom and start to put all your work into what it is you were called to do, who it is you were called to actually be. And it was not to love and hip hop it out. It was not to Netflix it out. It was not to Disney Plus it out. It was not to Hulu it out. It's to actually become the currency yourself in the end. Is to actually be such a kingdom builder that people can treat you like a bank and they don't have to go to a bank that's going to tell them no every time. The ending goal is that we build lanes of our own. When people say stay in your lane, that it means that the lane is owned by you. The land is your land. Can't nobody take you out of the lane or push you or knock you around in the lane because it's yours. Stay in your lane is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean go mind your business or get out my face or something negative. Some people try to put this negative condensation on it, but stay in your lane is powerful. It's impactful. It changes communities. It turns lives around. So in this season, we're building our own lanes because we realize where currency comes from. We realize where it starts, heavenly and mentally. We realize that once we figure out where our currency comes from, how consistent we're going to be in that currency, now we're going to add faith to drive to be the transportation for that currency. And once we start to do that, then we start to see the change in our life. In that knowing of currency, in that knowing of faith being the transportation, we also thirdly have to have discipline. We have to have the discipline to save. We have to have the discipline to not eat out all the time. We have to have the discipline to not want to spoil yourself or your children, your significant other, because you feel deprived, because you didn't have something when you were younger. Because last week you wanted that T-bone steak and that filet. You couldn't have it last week. So you told yourself, when I get paid, that's what I'm going to have. There's nothing wrong with that if everything else has balance. There's nothing wrong with that if you're consistent. There's nothing wrong with that if on Monday and Wednesday and Friday you put the love and hip hop down and said, let me pick up some currency. Let me pick up something that's going to feed my faith. Let me pick up what's going to fuel me. There's actually a reason for the reward. It's not because I felt deprived. It's not because I didn't have it. It's not out of lack or fear or worry or shame. The reward is because I actually put the time and the effort and the consistency and the faith and the discipline in to be able to manifest what was already mine. So true manifestation is you looking like what your reward already is. If that steak dinner is already yours because God says it is, because it's a part of the plan that he had for you before you was in your mother's womb, that you get to eat on a king level, you get to eat on a queen level, whatever that looks like for you. A queen plate could be eggs and avocados and cucumbers and berries and water with lime. That could be your queen level. Everyone's queen level of what you should be eating that cleans you out, keeps your skin clear, keeps your hair strong, and keeps your nails together, and keeps your mind balanced. That's what your king or queen plate looks like. And if it's a steak for you, it's a steak for you. Everyone's plate is different. So don't take that I'm talking about steak the wrong way. That doesn't mean that you don't eat off of a queen's plate, or your plate is a low vibrational plate because there's not steak on it. Whatever gives you balance and whatever gives you the opportunity to keep on living and be stronger in that life, that's your queen plate. Okay, sis? So what I'm saying is, once you create the balance in different areas of your life, now you're rewarding yourself. Now you're actually living in true manifestation. True manifestation is the cycle of being worthy of what's yours. That's manifestation. Manifestation is not writing it down. Writing something down does have a power in you writing it. There is power in writing. Absolutely. Just like there's power in what you're saying. There's the power turns into an action in your life, and it shows up in whatever way because of what you said, right? So writing it down does the same thing. The same thing. It turns into an action in your life and shows up in a certain way based upon whatever you wrote. But you could write Ferrari, 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 Lexus, BMW, Porsche, 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 Porsche 100 times. If you don't qualify spiritually, you will not ever be able to attain it or maintain it. So true manifestation is when you look like what is yours. So it shows up. And when it shows up, it says, she's ready. When that Ferrari shows up, it says, he can hold on to me. When that Mercedes shows up, it can say, she did the work and I know she will respect me. If your house is not clean, then don't expect to own a house. Because God can't trust you with the apartment he gave you. There are people's houses that I lived in, and I made sure that their house was clean. There's spaces that I've been in an Airbnb, and I made sure that even the space in the Airbnb was clean. So that God could see, even at the small thing that I gave you, even at the small level that I gave you something, you still respect it. And I will bless you with more because you'll take care of the more. Right? So a lot of people will say, well, I'll get somebody else to do it. That's fine. As long as you're keeping it clean and you're setting the budget to have someone clean your house, that's your business. That's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. I do see something wrong with you paying them less than they are worth. Yes. I seen a commercial the other day where a guy was like, I paid someone $19 to clean my house. And I'm like, sir, you're excited about that? That you paid someone less than what they were worth? A whole house? $19? And so people are into all kind of marketing and commercials, and they think things grab our attention. But when your frequency is on a certain level and you don't think in a certain way anymore, a commercial about $19 for a clean house is not appealing to you. But when you're creating currency, you're realizing that, yes, this may cost $20, but I'm going to tip her $50 because she's cleaning my house. She's cleaning the space that I deem to be sacred, that I rest my head in. I need to have respect all around the board for my home. Who cleans it, how I treat them, how frequently I have that person come to clean, what products she's using. Are they harsh? Are they tearing up the carpet? Is it tearing up the counter space, the countertops, or the cabinets? So a lot of times, currency is in the details. Currency is in how you talk to the man that you just met and you want a husband, but your attitude is not under control. And so if he triggers you, now your currency starts to change and you're feeding him less and you're not consistent. And when I say feeding him, I'm talking about how you're treating him or her. So currency, not just reading the Bible, not just praying, not just with what you listen to and with what you watch. Currency is 100% how you treat people is a currency. If you're nasty to your neighbors, that becomes a currency. If you're nasty to the lady at McDonald's in the drive-thru, you just sold into your currency bank. If you treat your mayor a certain way with a smile and a handshake, but your waitress gets treated like crap, you just sold into your currency bank. And at the end, when it's payday, you will receive and reap what you sown. So remember, your currency is a bank. How you're treating people, what you're reading, what you're watching, how consistent you are. Just being consistent in general contributes to discipline, and that in itself is also a currency. So we want to learn that paper is not currency. A bank transfer is not currency. An invoice is not currency. Those are just boats that get the currency to you. When you learn where it really is coming from, your Heavenly Father, then you'll learn to shift into what it is you need to start to consistently do and how to fuel the fire of your altar. And so in closing, I thank you for joining me. I appreciate you one more time. If there's something that you need, DM me. If there's a bill that you need paid, please don't hesitate to leave me a message. If you want to private message me on Instagram, it's Babes Healing. If you want to hit me up on TikTok, it's new underscore oil underscore publishing, New Oil's bookstore on TikTok. You can also send me a message on or in my email, which is newoilenterprise, the number 7 at gmail.com. And if there's something you need, if you're looking for mentorship, I do spiritual mentorship. If you're looking to be coached, I am a life coach. I delve in not just life coaching, but business coaching as well. I do have my diploma in business and management and marketing. And so I am accredited. I worked in business for over 20 years. And I've lived a lot of life out to know what it is a lot of other people are going through and the struggles that it does come with at times. And I am 100% here to be a service to God's people. Looking for a life coach, a business coach, if you're looking for spiritual mentorship or a good book, I'm also an author. Please do message me. I have many different books on different levels for children, for teenagers, for moms, for that businessman who's just starting out his business and he needs some ideas or he needs some knowledge. That is absolutely what I do. I am here to serve. So you can hit me up at any of those platforms. And again, I love you. I thank you for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next time. Later.